You're listening to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, created to help you succeed in your Security Plus certification journey. Learn more at baremetalcyber.com, where additional prepcasts, books, and training materials await. Let's get started. Insider threats occur when individuals within an organization put systems, data, or operations at risk. They fall into three broad types: malicious insiders, who intentionally abuse their access for personal gain or revenge; negligent insiders, who make careless mistakes such as mishandling sensitive information; and compromised insiders, whose accounts or devices are hijacked by external actors. Distinguishing among these types matters because each requires different detection strategies and mitigations. While the access is the same, the intent and behavior patterns vary significantly. Motivations for insider threats range from financial gain and espionage to disgruntlement and ideology. Malicious insiders may exfiltrate intellectual property, sabotage systems, or sell access to criminal groups. Negligent insiders often introduce risk unintentionally, for example by clicking phishing links or mishandling credentials. Compromised insiders may not even realize their accounts are being used for harmful activities. Common behaviors include accessing data outside of job responsibilities, transferring files to unauthorized devices, or attempting to escalate privileges. Recognizing these patterns helps organizations intervene before significant damage occurs. Detecting insider activity is uniquely challenging because insiders already possess legitimate credentials and often understand how systems work. Their actions may not trigger the same alarms that external intrusions generate. For example, a user downloading sensitive files may appear routine unless the volume or timing is unusual. Distinguishing malicious activity from normal behavior requires deep context about roles, responsibilities, and patterns. This difficulty makes insider detection one of the most persistent problems in cybersecurity, requiring a blend of technology, process, and human oversight. Shadow IT refers to the use of technology solutions that are not formally approved or managed by an organization's IT department. Examples include employees using unauthorized cloud storage, messaging apps, or personal devices for work purposes. These tools increase risk because they bypass security controls, lack monitoring, and may not meet compliance standards. Shadow IT effectively expands the attack surface with little visibility, making it harder for defenders to manage threats. For learners, Shadow IT demonstrates how even well-intentioned employees can inadvertently introduce vulnerabilities. Shadow IT often arises from usability and productivity pressures. When employees perceive official tools as slow, complex, or lacking features, they may turn to consumer-grade alternatives to get their jobs done faster. While their intent is often efficiency, the result is fragmented technology environments outside of IT governance. The challenge for organizations is to balance control with user needs, providing tools that meet business requirements while preventing risky, unsanctioned workarounds. Organized crime represents a structured, profit-driven form of cyber threat. Unlike lone hackers, these groups operate like businesses, with defined roles, hierarchies, and financial incentives. Their operations are often global, sophisticated, and highly adaptive, focused on maximizing return on investment. Organized crime groups exploit vulnerabilities at scale and reinvest profits into acquiring new tools, expanding infrastructure, and recruiting skilled members. Understanding them as businesses highlights the efficiency and persistence behind their activities. Criminal business models in cyberspace often revolve around ransomware, fraud, and data resale. Ransomware generates revenue by encrypting victim systems and demanding payment. Fraud schemes include payment card fraud, business email compromise, or identity theft. Data resale involves stealing personal or corporate information and selling it on underground markets. These models thrive because digital goods are easily replicated and traded, creating ongoing revenue streams for criminals with relatively low risk compared to traditional crime. The commoditization of attack services fuels organized crime. Malware as a service, phishing kits, and rented botnets allow criminals to outsource technical operations. This lowers the barrier of entry, enabling less skilled individuals to participate in cybercrime, while specialists provide the infrastructure. The result is an ecosystem where organized crime groups can scale their attacks efficiently, treating cyber operations as streamlined commercial ventures. Indicators of insider misuse or shadow IT presence may include unusual access patterns, unexpected network traffic to unapproved services, or attempts to bypass security policies. Signs could be as subtle as repeated access to sensitive data without clear justification or as visible as entire teams using unauthorized collaboration platforms. Identifying these indicators early enables organizations to correct behavior, mitigate risk, and investigate potential misconduct before it escalates into a larger breach. Governance controls are vital to limit shadow IT proliferation. These controls include clear policies about approved technology, enforcement mechanisms to restrict unapproved apps, and communication that educates staff on risks. Effective governance also involves offering secure alternatives that meet user needs, reducing the temptation to adopt unauthorized tools. Governance turns shadow IT from an unmanaged sprawl into a manageable, risk-aware ecosystem aligned with business objectives. Separation of duties and least privilege are proven mitigations against insider threats. Separation of duties ensures that no single person controls an entire critical process, reducing the chance of fraud or sabotage. Least privilege restricts users to only the access necessary for their job, limiting the potential damage if an insider turns malicious or careless. These principles create friction for attackers and insiders alike, ensuring that even legitimate access cannot be easily abused to compromise critical assets. Together, insider risks, shadow IT, and organized crime highlight the need for complementary controls. Insiders may act intentionally, carelessly, or unknowingly, while shadow IT expands risk unknowingly, and organized crime exploits both opportunities aggressively. Defenses must integrate technical safeguards, governance, and cultural awareness to address these overlapping threats. For learners, the lesson is that internal and external risks are deeply connected, and resilience requires layered controls that address both simultaneously. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Monitoring techniques are central to detecting anomalous insider behavior. This may include tracking file access volumes, monitoring login times outside of business hours, or flagging transfers to external storage devices. Correlating these activities across systems helps identify patterns that deviate from a user's baseline. Monitoring cannot rely solely on alerts for technical anomalies. It must consider human behavior and context to separate malicious activity from normal productivity. User and Entity Behavior Analytics, or UEBA, strengthens detection by applying machine learning and statistical models to activity data. UEBA tools build baselines of expected behavior for each user and system, then flag deviations that may indicate misuse or compromise. For example, if an employee suddenly downloads 10 times more files than usual, UEBA highlights the anomaly for investigation. By looking at patterns rather than just rule-based alerts, UEBA increases the likelihood of detecting subtle insider threats. Access reviews and privileged access management are essential for limiting insider risk. Periodic access reviews verify that users still require the permissions they hold, removing unnecessary rights that accumulate over time. Privileged access management adds safeguards for accounts with elevated rights, requiring approval workflows, session monitoring, and time-limited access. These measures reduce the chance that insiders can exploit excessive privileges or that compromised accounts can be used unchecked. Policies and education act as deterrents to negligent insider actions. Many insider incidents stem from carelessness, such as mishandling credentials or bypassing controls for convenience. Clear policies explain expectations, while ongoing education raises awareness of risks. Training programs that explain why controls exist and how to follow them properly reduce accidental violations. Cultural reinforcement of accountability turns education from a compliance exercise into a practical safeguard against negligence. Incident response steps for suspected insider compromise begin with detection and containment. Organizations must isolate the suspected account or device to limit further harm, investigate activity to confirm intent, and coordinate with legal and HR teams to handle disciplinary or criminal aspects. Communication should be handled carefully, balancing transparency with confidentiality. Finally, lessons learned should be fed back into governance and monitoring controls to reduce recurrence. Treating insider incidents as part of a broader response cycle ensures consistency and fairness. Procurement and vendor controls reduce shadow IT by ensuring new tools are evaluated, approved, and secured before adoption. Procurement policies should require security reviews and compliance checks for all third-party applications and services. Vendor controls verify that suppliers follow agreed security practices, reducing the chance that employees feel compelled to bypass IT. By embedding security into acquisition processes, organizations minimize shadow IT by making approved tools accessible and safe. Centralized SaaS management and discovery tools give visibility into what services employees are actually using. These tools scan network traffic or integrate with identity systems to identify unsanctioned applications. Centralized management consolidates control, allowing IT teams to enforce consistent access policies and security configurations across multiple cloud services. Visibility is the first step toward governing shadow IT, enabling organizations to make informed decisions rather than relying on blind trust. Legal and HR coordination is critical when handling insider incidents. Disciplinary action, termination, or legal prosecution may all be required, depending on severity. HR ensures fairness and adherence to employment law, while legal teams address regulatory and liability considerations. Coordination ensures that insider responses do not undermine employee trust or expose the organization to legal risk. For learners, this highlights that insider threat management is not just technical, but deeply intertwined with organizational governance. Fraud detection controls directly address organized crime operations. These may include transaction monitoring, anomaly detection in payment systems, or validation processes to prevent identity theft. Automated fraud detection uses similar principles to UEBA, spotting deviations from expected patterns that may indicate criminal behavior. By layering fraud detection into security systems, organizations reduce opportunities for organized crime to monetize their activities. Organized crime often leverages both technical exploits and social engineering to maximize success. For example, a ransomware attack may begin with phishing emails and escalate into exploiting unpatched vulnerabilities. Combining methods makes attacks harder to block and increases their impact. Recognizing this hybrid approach ensures that defenders do not focus too narrowly on either human or technical vectors, but instead address both together. Continuous monitoring and governance are central defenses against insider threats, shadow IT, and organized crime. Monitoring ensures visibility into daily activities, while governance enforces policies and processes to keep security consistent. Together, they reduce blind spots and prevent risks from compounding over time. Without continuous oversight, controls weaken, and attackers exploit gaps between policy and practice. In summary, insider threats, shadow IT, and organized crime represent interrelated challenges that demand layered defenses. Monitoring, UEBA, access management, and governance address insider risks. Procurement controls and centralized SaaS management reduce shadow IT exposure. Fraud detection and hybrid defenses counter organized crime. Together, these practices build resilience against both internal and external adversaries. For learners, the key lesson is that effective defense requires visibility, governance, and alignment across technology, people, and organizational processes. Thanks for tuning in to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, your trusted source for cybersecurity news and insights. Remember to subscribe at baremetalcyber.com so you never miss an update. And visit cyberauthor.me for best-selling cybersecurity books that equip you with expert knowledge. Until next time, stay secure and stay vigilant.